back to Dollars and Cents with Freedman Financial on North Shore 1049. My name is Marc Freedman. I'm President and CEO of Freedman Financial, located in Peabody, Massachusetts, where we've been providing financial planning and investment management advice to individuals and families living on the North Shore, the Merrimack Valley, and the southern New Hampshire area since 1968. No, not me. I was 2 then. My father started the firm back then. Actually, he was one of the first financial planners in this country. Yeah, it seems kind of odd. Just only 50 years ago is when there was financial planning. Look, everybody tried to do their own financial planning before that, but the need for it became even greater as we entered the 60s and the 70s, when all of a sudden the government wasn't taking care of us anymore. We all weren't working for big companies where there was a pension that provided us some assurances. We all of a sudden began to start thinking about lifestyles where we wanted to spend money independently and differently. It seemed back in the 40s and the 50s, everybody kind of did the same thing. You know, you lived in your community, everybody spent money the same way, we all ate at the same restaurants, we all had the same things for dinner, we all had the same activities outside in our neighborhood, we all did a lot of the same stuff. But today, you look around, just even look around your street, how likely is it that you even know the people who live on your street? Think about this. When houses are built today, how many houses have a front porch? Old houses, you know, you drive around these homes from, you know, in years ago and decades ago, they were built with a front porch so people could hang out and chat with their neighbors as they went by. People would hang out on the front porch. Who hangs out on their front porch these days and hangs out and talks with their neighbors? Well, we don't, because we don't even have front porches. How many kids go out and play in the neighborhood? I knew when I was growing up in the 70s, I lived in a circle. It was Hughes Circle in Peabody, Massachusetts. And there were 15 boys, absolutely 15 boys, that lived on our circle. And every night, we would be out on the circle playing kick the can, a kickball game, a wiffle ball game, a hide and seek game, whatever it was. That stuff just doesn't happen anymore. But I'm not saying it's bad. Now, some will say, oh, we got to bring back those days. I don't know that it's bad. It was different. The way our kids communicate today is different. I'll go downstairs in my basement now, or the playroom as we call it, and I'll find Corey, my 16-year-old son, talking to 3 other people, and I look, but the other 3 other people aren't there. They're not in the playroom. And I'm going, Corey, who are you talking to? Well, we're all playing a video game. And they're all they have a speaker that's going on. They're all talking to each other. They're all sitting in their own homes. And they're all playing some video game. It's different. Our kids are interacting. Our kids are talking. They're just communicating differently. Was our way a better way? Some will say, absolutely yes, it was the only way. Well, you know, what do you think the generations before us said about the way we were communicating? Everything's different. And I think one of the things that we need to embrace is the fact that each generation finds their own groove. And that groove works for them. It works to connect with the society that they live in today. I always tell the story about how I was at North Andover High School teaching one of the personal finance classes. It's an elective that they offer for juniors and seniors there. And once a trimester, they invite me to come in and offer a real-life perspective on the world. And the first class I went to, my son Jerry was in the class at the time, and there's this kid sitting in the class, and he's on his phone. And I'm like so insulted. But you gotta be careful these days, right? You know, you say something wrong, I mean, I could get booted. Some parent's gonna say, can you believe what Mr. Freedman said? So I'm going through my thing, I'm talking to the kids about the cost of things, real life cost of things, what it costs to move out of the house, stuff like that. And this kid is like texting like crazy on his phone. And finally, I can't stand it anymore. So I said to the kid, excuse me. I said, could you please put your phone away? I said, I'm trying to grab the attention of everybody here in the classroom, and all I see is you texting on your phone. He says, but Mr. Freedman, I'm taking notes. I said, come on, you're not taking notes. You know you're texting somebody. And he turns his phone around, and this kid has been feverishly taking notes on his phone about what I've been saying. I was humbled. I was very humbled because the way that our kids, I learned, Jerry says to me that night, he says, Dad, I write my essays on my phone. Really? I was amazed at how few kids rely on a laptop computer in the high school. They prefer to just do everything on their phone. because Google Docs allows them to do all this stuff. So it was a learning for me. We need to, and I'm not saying that what they're doing is wrong. I used to be all bent out of shape with my son Jerry, and I said, how can the schools be teaching you on Google Docs and all these Google platforms when in real life it's about Microsoft Word and Microsoft Excel? Well, the answer back then was, well, Google is free and Microsoft costs money. But in the real world, as many of you know, many of us use Microsoft Word. However, what I've learned is over time, that's evolved as well. More and more firms are adapting to the word processing platform that exists with Apple. And I think it's, I forget what it's called, Pages, and there's Keynote and all those kinds of things. There's the Google applications that are free. So Microsoft still is the leader for sure. But what I thought was the way that it would be forever is changing. When I went to college, they introduced this thing called Microsoft Word. And I think we had Microsoft Word, and then we had not Excel, but Lotus 123. Right? And Lotus was the spreadsheet. Who would ever think that Lotus would go away in favor of Excel? Things change. And it's just a reminder to me as a parent that the way we think things should be are going to evolve and they're going to change. And we need to be a little bit more open. We need to be more open in having that conversation with folks rather than digging our heels in and saying, this is the way. And I know I'm kind of going off the subject of what I was going to talk about here for a minute, but it makes me think about the conversations that I've been having with my kids who have been coming home from school. And Corey and Noah have been struggling with some of the conversations that they have in these debating classes. These classes where a teacher in the English class, in a U.S. history class, whatever, will raise an issue and then post it up for conversation. Yet the conversation is biased, frankly, in one direction. And my son, Corey in particular, is finding that the bias is oftentimes supported by the vast majority of the students on the perspective that the teacher is sharing. And he's not so sure that the kids are supporting it more so than the fact that they're uncomfortable taking another position. And so when Corey brings up another viewpoint on that, he gets ambushed from the teacher and from the students. And it's making him begin to feel uncomfortable. And it makes me begin to think about how much are we spending in our schools and even in our own personal dialogue of trying to really respect the opinions of others, in trying to say there is good intent coming from all sides here. We're just not opening our ears to all of it. We are shutting our ears to many different perspectives that are out there. And I'm not saying that my perspective is right, nor is yours completely right. There is probably something in the middle that works here. But if we're closing our ears and absolutely ignoring the other side before we're willing to have that conversation and say, you know, tell me a little bit more about this. I'm not quite sure I understand your opinion. Maybe you can share a little bit more. And then not feel insulted when someone says to you, hey, I'm not quite sure I understand what you're saying here. Maybe you can add some more flavor, a little bit more context to this. And frankly, that's what we do in financial planning meetings too. Because oftentimes when people come to our office, they have this bias about what financial planning, what retirement, what life after work will look like. And that bias is based upon what their friends told them, what their parents told them, what they read about, what they heard about, what they see as sound bites on television commercials. And it's my job to help them understand that there's something that's bigger than just a cliche or some statement that rolls out. It's up to us to navigate the dialogue so that we're clear in what it is that you want, what it is that you need. Because when I say to you, tell me, what does retirement look like to you? Think about that question. When you say, I want to retire, what does retirement mean to you? Does retirement mean I'm quitting my job and I'm going to rock on a chair on the, I guess now back porch because there are no more front porches, the back porch, drink some lemonade and do some needlepoint? That's what retirement looked like. Certainly if you watch a lot of movies, right? A lot of the older movies, that's what retirement was, right? You go to your retirement party, you work for a company for 40 years, they have a retirement party, you get a gold watch, then you and your spouse go on a cruise, the Love Boat, right? That's what the whole Love Boat was built on. You go on the cruise, they throw the confetti, you have a wonderful time, you celebrate, you dance, you live life for a week, and then you settle back to the house with some lemonade and knitting an Afghan, and you watch the world go by and the kids come to visit for the holidays. And then you die. I gotta believe that retirement looks a little bit different for many people, and each person's description and vision of retirement is different. You know why? Because we're all expected to live a lot longer than the folks did who began to get shown pictures in the Love Boat and the generations before that. Life expectancy today is going to be well into your 80s, perhaps even your 90s. In fact, did you know this? That 60% of all people who have ever lived beyond the age of 80 are alive right now. Think about that. 2,000 years. We've been around 2,000 years. And 60% of all people who have ever lived to the age of 80 are living right now. Retirement doesn't end 10 years after age 65. There'll be many people who will live well into their hundreds. What will we do? Those are 8,000 days. 8,000 days, by the way, from 65 to 83. 8,000 days, and you're likely to live more than that. What if you had 16,000 days? What will you do with all of those days? How will you live life differently? So when we talk about retirement, I want you to begin thinking about that. And oftentimes that is too big of a vision to have, because if I asked you at 40, what do the next 20 years look like for you? You got a lot of things that you can specifically think of that you will be hitting as milestones. My kids will start getting ready for college, or maybe I'm going to be having children early on. Maybe I got to start planning for a kid's education. Maybe I want to buy a second home. Maybe I'll be transitioning jobs. Maybe I'm going to have to care for mom or dad because they're going to start to age. Well, now all of a sudden, advance that now to age 65 or 70. What are all the things that you can ratchet off that are big time expenses and big time projects that you have to worry and think about? And probably not that many. Yet we worry so much about retirement because you have to think about, what am I going to do? How are you going to plan for that? If you say I want a vacation, what's that vacation going to look like? How are you going to plan for that? I want to spend more time with the kids. Well, what if they don't want to spend time with you? Maybe they do, but maybe they don't want to spend as much time as you want to spend with them. Unless, of course, you need to provide daycare. That's a whole nother story. You're retiring so you can provide the daycare to your adult children's kids. Lots of questions. When we sit down for a financial planning conversation, we got to say, what are the things that you want to do, that you imagine having to do and then want to do, and what are the things that you hope you could do? And can you afford them? How do you facilitate all of that? That is not about whether you should be buying large cap growth or large cap value or stocks or bonds or mutual funds or exchange traded funds. That is a whole nother conversation. And frankly, those conversations happen well after we've had the goals conversation, the personal objectives conversation, and understanding where you are financially. But at every stage in our lives, we're faced with different things. At our office, we deal with 5 different segments of clients. The 5 segments that we focus our attention on are a group that are called either the accumulator, the pre-retiree, the seasoned retiree, the new retiree, I went backwards there, and the survivor. So let me do those again. We either have the accumulator, the pre-retiree, the new retiree, the seasoned retiree, and the survivor. Each of those categories are distinctly different, and the needs within each of those categories are different as well. I want to give you an illustration of what each of those categories look like. But we're out of time for this segment. We're going to get back to talking about those things in our very next segment. Coming up next, we got to take a quick break. My name is Marc Freedman. You're listening to Dollars and Cents with Freedman Financial on North Shore 104.9.